You're listening to This Naked Mind with Annie Grace.
This is Annie Grace, and welcome to This Naked Mind cast. And I'm here with Dr. Ginny. Hi, Ginny. How are you?
I'm really well, Annie. It's great to see your smiling face.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. So why don't you take us back to the beginning in your relationship with alcohol and let me know where it all started for you.
Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, I knew in college I was drinking too much. Really, in high school, I knew I had at least one really bad, scary experience from drinking. So there was on and off my whole adult life that I was questioning, but thinking, oh, I'm not like those people who drink every day. And then when I was drinking every day, but I'm not like those people who are under a bridge, drinking out of a bag. I always had this, look, those people are in trouble, but I'm really not. But I always questioned my relationship with alcohol, really from my teens a little bit. Yeah, but really thinking like, oh no, I'm sophisticated the way I drink, right? I'm pairing wine with food and, just really thought of myself in this special category, which I think most of us do. I'm not in that category of people who has to worry about it. We start researching, am I an alcoholic? Right. And I love how you talk about that. I was so glad to finally find Annie Grace.
That's awesome. So when you were a teenager, what did that look like?
I don't know, except that I lived in a really small town and our idea of fun was to drive around and go drinking in parking lots and in fields and stuff. So I remember drinking Boone's Farm, and I remember liking beer, and I just ended up with some sexual experiences I really didn't want to be there for. And ending up, I remember telling a friend, so and so raped me last night. And I knew if I talked to him, he's not going to think that was rape. And we did talk about it. And it's just sort of where things started with, maybe this isn't a great idea. And it really wasn't till my mid-50s that I found a way out.
So what did the time look like in between there?
College was a lot of binge drinking, right? But keeping it to the weekends, and then it was 1 6-pack a weekend, and then it was 2 6-packs a weekend. And I don't know when it happened that I started drinking every night, because that was one of my things I was never going to cross, one of my thresholds. But I did cross it at some point where I was having pretty much a bottle of wine every night, and then often something in addition to that. And I would watch myself and go, that something's wrong here. Nah, just don't look at it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So you went to college. What happened then?
Yeah, I don't know. Then I went to grad school. And so it was still, I do remember a wine tasting party I went to where other people knew what to do. Like, don't drink everything. Like spit it out or something. And I didn't know that. So I ended up in the bathroom throwing up, really embarrassed. Like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Like everyone else seems to be able to do it, which now that I think of it is so our experience when it comes to drinking. It looks like everyone else is doing fine. And we're questioning ourselves and thinking, well, they look like they're fine. Right. So we don't want to question. I think we have a lot of reasons to not question it too much, especially when we start trying to cut back and we have terrible experiences with that. I wasn't going to drink tonight, but now I'm drinking. Doesn't matter. I started feeling so out of integrity with myself. That makes me want to cry. It was just really painful feeling like, what is wrong with me? How come everyone else can do this and I'm struggling? What if people knew how much I'm struggling? I'm a licensed psychologist, right? What's going to happen to me if this becomes apparent to other people? It's upsetting.
You had to hide it?
I did feel like I was hiding it. I got so, it seemed like something to do for social reasons for a long time. And then I noticed I was mostly just drinking at home alone. And I had these wonderful friends in my life that I was really neglecting because it was time to go home and start drinking, right? I might go out to dinner with them and have a couple of glasses of wine, but I got to go because I need some more wine now and I can't drive after that. I just didn't quite see how I had shifted into, I'm really drinking alone a lot. And I'm spending a lot of my time and money looking for the next drink.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when did you start to get serious about changing something?
Yeah. You might have heard me talk about this wake up call moment I had in between positions when I was shifting to doing my own business. I worked in nursing homes for a while. And it was a shock. I thought people in there were going to be in their 80s and 90s, very different from me, right? They're totally different category of people. And when I got there, they were in their 60s and 70s. They were like 5 to 10 years older than me, and they weren't that different from me. And that was really scary. Like by that point, I was having a lot of hot flashes. I was having a lot of insomnia. I was having so much pain and inflammation, like in my feet, that I could barely walk anymore. So I had this vision in my 80s, I'm going to still be youthful and hiking in the mountains. And already in my mid 50s, I couldn't hike in the mountains. I could barely go for a walk in the park anymore. I was 60 pounds overweight, and I was just totally consumed with seeking like special food and drink every night. Special, special. It's all got to be so special. And it was just really taking my health in ways I wasn't quite acknowledging. But I have to say, when I thought about, I got to change this, I was so scared. I don't know how to quit drinking. I've tried 6,000 times probably, like, I'm just not going to drink tonight. Well, yes, I am. Right. And so it was really scary, like, oh, I'm just going to prove myself a failure again and end up drinking more. Every time I tried to quit drinking, I would eat tons of sugar and then go back to drinking anyway. So I felt like every time I try, I just make it worse. So I was really, really scared. I was feeling super out of integrity with who I was. I'm just not someone who can get things done anymore, is how I felt.
And when you were, noticing, like, did you trace some of these things to alcohol at that time, or was it?
Oh, totally. Yeah. It was my eating and my drinking both. And that's part of what I found when I started working in the nursing homes is these people are in here in their 60s and 70s with diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease and stroke and dementia. And when I research these things, they are tied to our eating and our drinking more than anything. And you kind of know this about me, but those two things are the same thing to me. Eating and drinking are just part of the same problem for me. Like the things that I was the most excited to eat and drink were the most toxic, most addictive things. And everything else seemed boring. Like life is now going to be boring if I have to cut these things out. I'm going to be sad and depressed and alone.
And when you were saying like every night had to be like special food,
Yes.
you mean like indulgent sort of
Yes.
special?
Yeah. Like now I think of that as a dopamine hit thing. Like I was just looking for almost some unattainable specialness. I remember I would plan on, like, when I have bread, I'm gonna have cheese, I'm gonna have chocolate, I'm gonna have wine. And then I would get to what should be the end of that meal. And I would feel like, I think just a little something salty now. And I'm not quite there yet. I think just a little more wine. And now I think just a little more chocolate. And I could kind of observe this weird behavior of, I can't quite get to the specialness that I'm trying to get to. And that was seeming disordered to me. Like I just keep eating and drinking and eating and drinking and eating and drinking, and I can't find an end. Like maybe this search for specialness is not serving me. Right.
So it's so interesting. And did you trace this back to like a, childhood sort of indulgence or need for indulgence, or just?
I mean, at the time I didn't really. What I do remember now is that every time I had allowance money, I would walk to the candy store. There was a homemade candy store, and it was really special candy, and it felt very, very exciting. There's a lot of things from childhood where food and drink and specialness and love all get mixed together, right?
Yeah, I think that's true for so many of us. I mean, even, even to the point where, it happens all the time, and it just seems so normal. And I don't even know that there's anything really wrong with it, but like candy is used as like a behavior treat, or going out for ice cream is it just all tied in, celebrations, all that sort of stuff.
Yep, I remember celebrations with the family. Also popcorn. I had a real addictive reaction to popcorn. I would go to the movies just to buy that giant thing of popcorn, and I knew I was eating too much. I would go and get the refill. And when I thought, well, why do I have such an emotional attachment? It did go back to childhood. Now I sort of feel like that doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter where it came from. What really got important is knowing you don't have to do this. Right? You don't have to be eating and drinking this way to have a fulfilling life. And in fact, eating and drinking this way seemed to be getting in the way of leading a fulfilling life and feeling good about myself. And once I was able to recognize all that, I have to say the part about finding you, because I knew I needed to change my eating. I was starting to research that. What does the research tell me about how to eat? But I did not know how to quit drinking, and I was super scared. I heard you on the radio, on Colorado Public Radio, talking about your book, and I pulled over and I wrote down your name and I wrote down This Naked Mind, and it makes me want to cry because, as you know, I feel like it just saved my life. I wasn't going to get anywhere with my eating and turning my health around until I figured out the drinking piece. And I knew I wasn't going to go to AA. I'd rather die than go to AA. That's just where I was. So finding somebody who spoke about it in such an empowering way, like you did, was so important to me. It was life changing. And as you know, then I started pestering you about, okay, you changed my life. Now, when you start training coaches, I want to be one. I want to be one of your first coaches. And I was able to do that. And I'm so glad.
Yeah, it's just awesome. That's just awesome. So let's back up just a little bit. When you said that you had started to come to this realization that this, this special like food and drink was not necessary. How did that start to come about?
I think as I started studying the evidence base about what actually is good to eat and drink, I was arguing with it. Like I thought I knew better than what the research said. And my training as a scientist was just go look at the research again, quit arguing with it. And so I just started changing my whole perspective. What if I quit arguing with what's actually good for my body and just actually try to learn what my body needs? In the area of drinking, the super clear piece is we need water. We need to drink, and it needs to be water. And we have come to this idea that it needs to be special. It needs to be alcohol, or it needs to be sweetened. Otherwise, it's not worth drinking. How many people will say to you, I don't like water? And I thought, that is really kind of sick, because we actually need water even more than we need food. So as I started to have those insights, I started just really trying to embrace, what if you just take responsibility to learn what's good for your body to eat and drink, and see if you can find a way to fall in love with those things your body actually needs. Because I could barely walk anymore, right? Like it wasn't going to go well if I didn't figure this out.
So you were highly motivated, and you took a path of research and then just kind of experimentation to sort of say, what might this be like? And what did you find?
Yeah, I found that I could absolutely fall in love with and crave the good foods. It's not exactly the same kind of craving as craving alcohol and bad things, but you can absolutely fall in love with and thoroughly enjoy things that are good for your body. And that's what I wanted, and that's what I do. It's not hard once you feel that way, right?
That's really cool. And so what are some of the ways in which like that's possible for someone?
Well, like find the things that are whole, real good foods that without a doubt, this is good for me, and find the ways to prepare them that you thoroughly enjoy and start eating them in abundance is what I discovered. Like we need to eat, and the people that I meet need to eat anywhere from 4 to 10 times the amount of nutritious foods we're eating. We have been slowly replacing nutritious foods with non-nutritious, highly processed food-like substances in our society. And it really is affecting our health, so that most of us now can expect our last 10 years to be sick and taking more and more medications, like with high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, etc. And if you don't want that, none of us wants that. It doesn't have to be that hard to change that. People think it's going to be hard because they think they gotta they got to eat less. I got to eat less and less and less. And that's just not what I found in the research.
Oh, that's really cool. So it isn't about actually eating less or any deprivation. It's just about eating abundantly the things that are actually good for you in a way that really cool.
And making it habitual so it becomes kind of effortless. So I knew that from years of practice as a psychologist, is new habits can become effortless once they become really habitual, right? It's not hard. It feels hard at first to change your habits because you're so attached to your habits.
That's really cool. And so you were starting to find your way to the food, and then but you didn't know about drinking. That felt like, because obviously you can't just, I mean, I guess you could just drink way more water in abundance, but
it didn't feel like it was going to be that easy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it really helped me to, like, in your approach, it's so consistent with the approaches that I learned as a psychologist, right? To change your mind, change your perspective, change how you feel about this thing you feel really attached to. It just really helped me kind of go through the process of getting over being scared of letting go.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm so glad. It's really glad.
I know.
How was it for you? What, did you find it pretty easy ultimately to stop drinking, or was it
6 years later, it feels like it was pretty easy. But that first year, I know it was hard because I was journaling, and especially the early months, I was crying a lot in the morning, feeling like, I don't know if I can do this. Am I going to let myself down again? Yeah, I remember there were hard times. I remember the times that I went ahead and drank when I wasn't drinking, and then felt like a bit of a failure. But I think because of going through this naked mind, I was kind of ready for that too. I was ready for those challenging moments and those moments where I slipped. And what am I going to do now? I think one of the greatest things I learned from you is you have to do this with a lot of self-compassion and self-love. Otherwise, you kind of keep yourself from being able to move forward. And that was really a process for me that you helped with.
And what did that look like for you?
Catching myself. It was a lot of catching myself, beating myself up, and then thinking, okay, let's just go read another chapter in Annie's book. Let's just look at, how do I get more compassionate with myself? I knew as a psychologist, yelling at myself is not actually helping, but it was such a habit. So interrupting myself in this area, it just really helped to have this naked mind to keep going back to every day. I encourage people to check out this naked mind. It just doesn't have to be as hard as you think when you have the right guidance and support.
That's really cool. And how was it for you sort of socially as you stopped drinking?
I remember being really scared. I have this one wonderful, beautiful best friend. We used to go out all the time and have dinner and drinks and laugh. And I thought, oh, I'm not going to have laughter with my friend anymore. I'll probably lose my friend. I went through all those disaster kind of fears. And then I thought, what if that's not the case? What if you don't? What if you can still laugh and enjoy each other, even though you're not drinking? What if you just plan for that? And so that's one thing I started doing is I'm going to still have dinner with my friend. She can drink, I won't drink, and we're still going to laugh. And it was totally easy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. One of the hardest situations for me was potlucks, where I would sort of wander around and eat everything and drink everything, and partly out of social anxiety and not feeling super comfortable talking to a lot of people. And so I would just prepare. I'm going to eat my nutritious food. I'm going to drink water and sparkling water. I brought stuff with me. And I would have an intention. I'm going to connect with somebody. I'm going to make somebody's day. I'm going to go in there and make somebody's day. And so I had a mission. And it kind of got me off the mission of I'm going to scrounge for the food and drink that I want. And so that really, really helped. Kind of having an approach, a plan, right?
I love that. That's really cool. Yeah. I often tell people that if you can go into those social situations with like as much curiosity about other people as possible,
yes,
go in and just make a commitment to yourself that you're going to find out 10 things about someone else, and you become really magnetic because people love to be heard. And especially when you can do it like in a genuine way, like you're not trying to get anything, you're just really just trying to get to know somebody. And I even like that more, like, how can I make somebody's day? Like, how can I really, listen to someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of opportunity to be listened to, or something like that. It's very cool.
Yeah. And it's something you can do because you're not drinking. Like when I was drinking, I wasn't that present for other people. I remembered I used to be someone who was a really good listener, who people really liked talking to. And I felt like that had fallen away as I started drinking every night. So it was back again, right? It was me again, something I could enjoy and be proud of again.
That's so cool. That's great. That's really amazing. So, so then you asked me lots of times. You were one of the main reasons that I was like, okay, yeah, like build this certification.
Really?
Yeah, there's a handful of you, probably like 8 or 10 people who were just,
Pestering you.
asking for it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And yes, you were one of the first ever coaches to be certified. And so how has that been for you?
Oh, I love it so much. Yeah, I got to coach in the PATH program 4 different years. And some of the people I love the most in the world came out of those programs. Right now, I just had somebody reach out to me about the help that I give. And she said, I'm in the PATH right now, and it is the best program in the world. I just see people open up and become alive again like I did. And God, what's better than that? You should be so, so proud.
That's so awesome. I'm so glad to hear it. Can you talk a little bit more about, I know you do more than just alcohol coaching, you actually help with food as well. So can you talk a little bit more about your approach there?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I help mostly women over 40, 50, and 60 with healthy eating and sustainable weight loss. The research out there says that 99% of the approaches out there are not working for sustainable weight loss, and we'd be better off never dieting. So that is heartbreaking to me. It's heartbreaking to me how many times I tried and it didn't work. And I just feel like women in this age group are so important to our communities that I really want them to know the difference between what's truly healthy eating, how sustainable weight loss works, and how it's completely different from dieting. So yeah, my program is called Slender for Good because it shouldn't be like, I work with a lot of people who did weight loss approaches that harmed their health, right? That harmed their metabolism. And that is heartbreaking to me. It's not the best way.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember pretty much the one and only time I really went on a diet. It was after my 3rd kid. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get the weight off. Like, I'm not having any more kids. And I was like, I'm just going to do this diet thing. And I did kind of a keto based thing, but I did not think about the fact that I was a woman. And as women, we need different cycles of eating and different, approaches and whatever. And yeah, I started losing my hair, my metabolism.
God.
And it was just, and then I was like, okay, never again. Like I am, there was so many different times over the years where I'd do things that it was just fascinating. And I did also like look into the research of dieting, and it's like it really does feel so counterproductive, not in the moment because we think this is going to be the one or this is going to be the thing, and over time.
Yeah, I can see just even watching you on Facebook how vibrant and alive you are, and that you're not doing dieting approaches is kind of apparent, even just looking at the aliveness in your face and your skin. There's a big difference. I get to see it all the time.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Love that. So let me ask you sort of the final 2 questions here, which is, first of all, where can people find you? Should they be interested in your coaching for alcohol, weight, or both?
Yeah, slenderforgood.com. Yeah. Great. I also have a Facebook group. What's it called now? Slender for Good Warriors. Awesome. Where I'm sharing a lot of free content and ideas that are hopefully thought-provoking.
Very cool. That's great. And so let me ask you the final question. Like, if you were going to go back in time to, Ginny, who felt really, really stuck and like life just wasn't going to be worth living or any good or any fun, if couldn't have this special food and drink, and what would you tell her about what things are like now?
You don't have to be scared. Things are awesome ahead of you. It's not special food and drink that makes life special. It's living that makes life special.
I love that. Yeah. So great. Yeah. Well, this has just been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, and it's just been great.
Thank you so much, and I love you.
Thanks, Ginny. I love you too.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you're ready to see how This Naked Mind can help you on your personal health and wellness journey and want to learn more, go to thisnakedmindpodcast.com to learn what your next best step is. Again, that's thisnakedmindpodcast.com. We have all of our free resources, programs, social links, and more available for you there. Plus, if you have your own naked life story to share, you can submit it there as well. Until next week, stay curious.